Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. Today we're doing Reflection 239, and we are trying to do one of the book that I think it may ties into what company is about, but I'm not sure.
It's a really interesting book. It's called The Architecture of Happiness by, I think it's Alain de Botton. This book's about architecture, like literal physical architecture, and the philosophy and the psychology that goes in behind how we design things and how we create stuff and how we build the physical environment around us. The whole point of this book is about taking a look at architecture and how integral it is to really living a value-driven life. Like, have you ever been to Washington, D.C. before?
No, I have not.
How do I describe Washington, D.C.? The best way I can describe it is it's big, it's all open. When I think of Washington, D.C., I think of the Washington Mall, which
Mm.
is where the Lincoln Memorial is at one end, the Capitol building at the other end, and you have the Washington Monument in the middle. Then you got the Jefferson Memorial, and you have the White House kind of all along this whole entire thing. Then you got the Vietnam Memorial, you got the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, then you have all the museums that this is like probably 3 miles from the Capitol building to the Lincoln Memorial. And then there's like a big reflecting pools all along the way. And like all along for that whole entire 3 miles is museums. They're like the National Air and Space Museum or the Native American Indian Museum or the Holocaust Museum or the African American History Museum. Visualize Washington, D.C. And when you go there, it's very strategically designed. All the buildings it looks like the United States. When you think of the United States, this is what I see. You see these big, tall columns and really wide open spaces, but at the same time, very strategically planned. Everything is, the Capitol building at one side, which gives this huge imposing look over everything. And then you got the Lincoln Memorial at the end of it. And you see, everything is free. Every museum you walk in and out of all day long there is free, from start to finish. Most of the museums, not all of them, I guess, but most of them are. There's something about the way that, like, when I think of the memorial, the National Mall, the Washington Mall, it just is the United States. It just looks like our country. The architecture, you forget what it looks like, and it reflects us. It reflects who we are, right? Like, and a lot of times I think the whole point of this book is you just kind of get lost a little bit in understanding how architecture plays and bringing out emotions and designing the environments you want to be in to reflect who you want to be and who you want the world to see you as, right? So this particular book, my reflection, it was an interesting book. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. But my reflection title for this one is We Build to Remember. And, before I read this book, honestly, I hadn't really given too much thought around architecture and how it aligned to this whole journey about values and purpose and living your values and bringing them to life. And I personally, you and I have been focused this entire time, for the better part of almost 3 years now, of trying to manifest our values in as many activities as we can. It didn't really dawn on me until after I read this book, like, well, shit, I think I accidentally kind of created my environments that I'm in to support those activities and how I want the world to see and how I want to be reminded of it, right? And it made me start to think, as I was writing this reflection, I just started to look around my office and I started to think of, like, take a tour of my own home, and there's like little monuments all over my house to my values, basically. There's my tennis ball machine down in the basement. When I redesigned my basement, I designed specifically custom bookshelves in a workout area so I could get my activities in that I like to do with Amelia every day, which, reading and exercising if I have to be at home and I can't go outside. And then I look in my garage and the workout equipment and stuff like that for more workout stuff. And then I came up here into my office and I started to look around and I was like, son of a bitch, I hadn't ever really noticed it until I started looking around. So I'll take you on a quick little tour. So you see this picture over here,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see this picture over here.
Right.
Okay, so that's the northern lights on that side, and this side
Mm-hmm.
is like a nice little calm beach. And I strategically bought those and put those there across from each other because I wanted to see like the warmth and the cold, right? And kind of the whole balance of conversation that we always talk about. Then right behind that one, there's this is Mount Haleakala, the sunrise, which is somewhere I've been in Hawaii twice. And we always talk about mountains, and then we also talk about the valleys, right? Like down here, right? So across from that side, you got your mountains and you got your valleys, where we always talk about going up into your mind at night, or during the day, and then making sure you come back down to the valley floor. And then on over there, I don't know if you can see those little square photos over
I
there,
can
but you
see
got,
Brian.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what Brian has to do with all this, but you got pictures of Amelia over there on the wall, and then you obviously got a lot of books and stuff like that because you're magical learning. And then right across from Amelia is in that back right corner or the back left corner over there. You see that one? It's a bunch of little lions. There's like
Right.
5 little lion cubs over there,
Right.
which, like my little spirit animals and stuff like that. And I strategically put the lion cubs across from Amelia because they're like their big sister, watching out for for the future little lion cubs. And then you got, on the back wall, the print from, I Can't Imagine,
Right.
every time that I go down my stairs, my back is kind of to it every single day, but until I like walk down and go down the stairs, and every single time that I leave or going out of the room, like I see that, it reminds me of, stuff that we've been able to accomplish together, and, what living for two is, and what can come from that, right? If I stay focused and doing stuff with her. And then on the other side of the room, like, there's like diplomas and stuff, but I don't really care about that. Like there's like, my wife has 2 diplomas over there, and then I have one, and she has 3 diplomas. So there's 2 more back there.
Yeah.
Then,
It's
then
not
you
a
have
competition.
right. She's got 3 to my 1. She has 2 masters, and yeah,
It counts as 2.
no, she has 2 masters. Oh, yeah,
That's
5 to
5 to
mine.
your
Yeah,
1 because a
yeah,
bachelor, right? It's
yeah.
1. A
Right,
master is 2 by itself. So you have 2 masters. That's 4
right.
plus whatever she actually has. That's
Exactly.
5. It's 5 of hers to your 1. So I think at this point you need to just, I
Give it
guess,
up. She
yeah,
wins.
get
He
out
wins
say
the
I'm not
academic
competing.
battle.
It's not a
Yeah,
competition. Just
right. I think the point I was trying to show is like, I never really noticed it, but like I have been designing my environment around me to reflect my values and to bring the balance that I want, to remind me of my why and my purpose. I want to see books, and I want to see areas where I can go work out, and see areas where it just triggers how I feel and how I designed my space around me. And I know these aren't necessarily physical architectural things, but my home is a very unique home and something that reflects me. If you ever see my house, I've showed you photos of it or taking you on tours outside, but it's a really unique property and a really unique house. And, like these things, they are who we are, right? While things don't really make up who we are, you know, the environments that we're around matters. Like, I mean, I wrote this particular reflection after I just got back from my parents' house from the 3 weeks that I was suffering over there from writing in my dad's office every day because our AC went out. Being back in my office every day and typing in the mornings, it just feels like home. It feels comfortable. It feels like a place that I want to be, that reflects who I am. I'd love to get your thoughts on, how does the environment help you to remember what matters most to you in this world? Like, is there anything special about your house, what you designed, or like just architecture in general? Like, when you start to think a little bit more about it, like how does it reflect cultures? How does it reflect who we are and what we really value?
yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with you. The thing is, to me, this is a question that I don't think it's a question for an individual because everybody would reflect the environment and the environment will reflect them. Right? So it doesn't matter what it is, right? Because you going to build or you're going to create based on what you know and what you are. So it doesn't matter what it is. If you hold a certain values, then it will reflect in your environment. If you let the environment reflect you, then this is how you feel, this is how you think. If I come to a place where you have a lot of tennis, a lot of lions, a lot of different things that is important to you, I can basically predict your mind. Your mind is exact reflection of what I see around you.
Right.
Because if so, it's either you. Basically, it's a your elephant is working. So whenever you train your elephant to say, "Well, these are my core values," to me, you don't have to do anything. You let the elephant does its thing, and you automatically have things where you would place, just like you say, strategically place one on each side, and certain thing that is important to you, you will place that because that what makes you feel like, hey, this is what feels like home.
Right.
So you can go to any place, regardless of the kind of quality of anything that you go to. You can go to a fancy 5-star hotel, and it still wouldn't feel like home because the thing that's there isn't what you value. Because sometimes you value an old broken cup. Sometimes you value a picture of a single rock in the middle of the desert or a single tree in the middle of the desert. So whatever that is, right? It reflects who you are. And if you can train your elephant will do things to reflect your internal environment. So like I said, a lot of people one of the things that people teach in self-improving psychology is you make your bed every day, right? You
Right.
make us because the thing it reflects your
That's who
mood,
you are. Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Because outside reflects inside and inside reflects outside, right? It's
Yep.
basically a window to your soul. So it's like a mirror. Because if you have a room that is messy and you're not a messy person, sit
Yeah.
because you are a messy person. You just can't sit there.
I
So
mean,
that
I talk to you about this with my wife all the time about like how, she is kind of a messier person when it comes to how she organizes stuff, and it drives me nuts. I have to like build her little spaces around the house where I'm like
why do
just
you think it drives you nuts?
because I'm not a messy person. Like,
Exactly.
right,
Because
right.
that's my point. To me, whenever you have things around you, that's is what is around you, is what's important to you. Just like you go to any kind of environment, if you decide that you embrace that environment, your environment becomes just that. Just like, for example, I don't know if this is for real, but in the case is real. You talk about heaven and hell, right? Heaven is
Right,
always this clean and nice and organized stuff, right? And then hell is really like dirty and hot and like scummy and slimy and all that, right? So
right,
why do the hell love to stay in that place? Versus why can they have a nice place like heaven? You
right.
can't, because that doesn't reflect who they are. They cannot be good, right? And be comfortable being bad. You just can't do it, because
Mhm.
whatever you have inside, you will reflect on your environment. And if you let your environment be what it needs to be, or you go to an environment that is not who you are, you're gonna absorb it and you becomes it. So to me, it's a two-way street, meaning that it basically mirror, it reflects both inside and outside. So whatever you can contend with, right? If you can contend with that, then it's going to influence your internal being, your internal mind, your subconscious. Your
Right,
conscious is gonna reflect just exactly that. So to me, we program our subconsciousness. You actually use your environment to reflect and change your internals. Because
yeah,
the thing is, when we grow up, our internal state is basically a blank slate, but then it reflects the thing outside, and everything we see, everything we experience becomes part of a base code in the subconscious, and those codes will execute. And they say, well, this is what I see people do. If I see people being very bad to each other, meaning like everybody lie, cheat, and steal, versus in an environment where everybody is nice, everybody can be confident and be skillful in what they do. This is what you become. You become just like them, just because it reflects that. And
right.
so whether or not when you grow up, unless you change that environment, right? So you have to change one or two environments, either the outside or the inside. Well,
Ideally.
regardless of how you change it, both environment eventually will mirror each other. That
Right,
is
yeah,
the stable state that it needs to be. So that if you force yourself to change internally, right,
yeah.
that
I mean,
means that you're gonna start getting rid of things you don't want. You're gonna hate things that, like, whatever core values you pick up, and whatever core values outside of it violates or contradicts what you hold inside, then those things you're gonna get rid of. You're gonna subconsciously you're gonna get rid of it. I feel nauseated by looking at it, because it's like, so that's what I'm saying is people have ability to change their internal with an external mirror, meaning like if you say, well, you want your house or your place of work to be different, right? You change the different. To me, this is why I truly love architecture. Architecture
yeah,
is one of those things where it changes the kind of person that you become,
yeah, I agree.
right? Because like for me, I like open space. Why do you think I like open space?
Because you like to not feel confined.
Exactly. I cannot be confined, whether confined in a physical space or confined in the decision.
Right.
That's why I told you I'm unemployable. I cannot be employed because whatever it is, it be as minor. I say,
Right.
well, why you tell me that I have my own mind? I can decide that for you. Tell me what you need. Let me do it my own way. I just deliver to you. This is our contractual agreement. So for me, is for most of my life, I'm always been a contractor. I just cannot become an employee. And even some of the time I become an employee, it doesn't last long. I just
Right.
can't do it. And so it reflects who I am, because that's why to me,
It's funny.
freedom and peace of mind is probably utmost important versus, hey, making money.
Right.
Because like I said, if you ask me, what's my number one kind of like destination, is the Mexican fisherman. If you ask me who's my superhero, I say the Mexican
That
fisherman.
makes it the guy that does what he
I say,
wants, Yeah.
fish a little, eat a
Right.
little, go
Right.
sleep, do it, take a little siesta, you know,
It's got
go,
extreme
go.
freedom is what it is.
That to
Right.
me is the most important. It's not like, oh, I want to be like Elon Musk and make billions of dollars. Well, what the
Right.
hell is he gonna do with the money? What the hell am I gonna do with the money? Right?
Nothing. I mean, it's really funny you said that because like I've always loved my house, right? Like, and it's always been something of, something that's very unique and quirky. And like, I mean, that's kind of how I've always seen myself as well. It's like I'm not normal. I like
The extreme of not normal.
yeah, you know what I love about my neighborhood? I live in an urban environment that has around my neighborhood has some pockets of and very close to my neighborhood has some pockets of pretty well, I mean, just like low income, like, I don't think I don't want to call it crime ridden, but like lower income areas in between my house and like downtown Indianapolis.
Mhm.
There's probably like a 3 mile stretch basically between my house and downtown Indianapolis where it's kind of just like a sea of shit until you hit about like the near east side of town, which downtown, which is like, like if I'm running, it's like a 35-minute run, 30-minute run for me to get to like to like downtown from here, like the city, kind of area. And it's like a straight shot. Anyway, my point of what I'm getting at is I love that I don't live in the suburbs of Indianapolis where like, everything's really planned out. There's beautiful parks, there's, running, jogging paths, like all the streets are nicely paved. No, like we got some shit streets, we got potholes everywhere. We got a nice little park down the street, but it's like, it's a city park. It's like, the city kids are there. It's like we're just hanging out, doing weird things. Like, people come and go as they want. It's a very diverse neighborhood. We have high income earning professionals and at the same time, low income earning white collar people can be living right next to each other. Some houses are $600,000 or $750,000 for Indianapolis. That's a decent house. And some houses are $100,000, and they're all in the same neighborhood. And I love that aspect of it because I feel like I'm home. Like when you're in those richer suburbs where everybody's got their $7,000 square foot home and their new subdivision that they're in and their planned communities. It feels like everybody just has to be the same fucking thing. Like, two parents with two kids and you go to the nice school down the street and you talk about your golf for the weekend. It's just nothing like what I want my life to be like. So every time that I ever see or go visit my friends that live in those areas, it almost makes me like, I get like the Mufasa shivers, right? I'm just like, I don't want to be here. I like my messy, disorganized, not easy to label neighborhood, like like my quirky house. It was built in like the early 1900s that is a really unique property that exists nowhere else in the city. No one else has what I have in this regard. There is not a single home that is anywhere near like this home in this city. And I don't mean that it's some crazy special place or something like that. Literally, there's nowhere else in this entire city that there's a home that exists anything like my house. And that makes me feel like it's more like me, right? I don't know how to really describe it, but
I mean, the thing is, I completely understand because, like I say, your environment reflects who you are.
Yeah.
If you don't like choose it and you let it choose you, you become it. You become just like it.
I do not want to be
if you say,
a suburban, like,
it's like, if you said, from Robert Frost, if you're taking, the road less travel, right?
Right.
The fork in the road, right? Whatever it is, if you take the road less travel, then the road that's less travel, whatever it is down that road going to be reflected into
right.
you.
Yeah, right.
Or the vice versa, right?
Right.
So it depends on where the change comes from. You can change from outside, and you can change from inside. Because for example, you and I, right? We went into this the aha moment of our lives, and we say, well, I didn't do a lot of these self reflection before. Now I do. From these, I can understand some of the things I like, and I'm starting to say, well, what's more important for me versus something else.
Right.
And so you can say, well, that's more important to me. So what I do is I'm going to focus on that values. And because I focus on the values, my elephant automatically say, well, this guy wants to do this. And so most of the effect of that change internally will manifest outside because your elephant actually will start organizing things in a way that need to see what inside. So it's a mirror. It reflects exactly. Right?
That's exactly what it is. It's a mirror.
And so when you talking about the way that you are, like, for example, when you choose Brian to be in the corner, right?
I didn't mean that is not on purpose. Actually, that's a really good point you just made.
It doesn't have to be on purpose because I'm telling you, you're not conscious of it.
No, I know.
You're not conscious of the thing you put. Most of the stuff you're not conscious. There's only a few things that you are conscious of. Like let's say you change your core values, right? And you're conscious of that one thing, but the 100 other things, the elephant's doing it.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, no, you're totally right. So on Brian, by the way, it's funny you just mentioned him because I don't know. Have you ever noticed that before, by the way? Like the Brian in the corner?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I honestly forget that it's there. So So Brian also has a bunch of Mardi Gras beads wrapped
Yes.
around
It
the
just to me it's like you are him and he is you.
right,
So I
right.
mean,
So
even
so
with the Margot beads on there, it's actually much more you than him by without the beads.
right. Well, so like those are from real Mardi Gras, where we're like, we were, well, I actually I think they're from multiple different Mardi Gras that I've been to in my life. One of them being when I was 15 years old, and my dad took me to my dad loves to scuba dive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was like my dad loves to scuba dive. He still tries to make me go do it with him all the time. But he loved it so much, like he had all of his own gear, he had his own BCs, he had all of his dive gear shit. Like he's always been super into to scuba diving, right? And he would take these scuba diving trips all the time. That's why they have a condo in Grand Cayman, because I don't know if you know anything about Grand Cayman, but Grand Cayman is like this hemisphere's Great Barrier Reef kind of equivalent of Australia. It's like the best diving in the world on this
Mm-hmm.
hemisphere is in the the Cayman
Mm-hmm.
Islands. And that's why my parents have always had a condo since I was a little kid. They've been to Grand Cayman probably, I don't even know how many times they've been there, a lot, but my dad would
Right.
always, want to go scuba diving. And so the day that the day that I turned, you have to be 13 years old in the state of Indiana. I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but in the state of Indiana, you have to be 13 years old to get your dive license. At the time, well, still one of my best friends, but his name's Rob. He wanted to learn how to dive, and my dad wanted me to, as soon as I turned 13 years old, to get my license so he could take me on dive trips and stuff like that. And I was like, whatever, fine, I'll do it. That's fine. He enrolled me in this class. It actually started on the last week of July. My birthday's in the first week of August. So I technically was
Mm-hmm.
only 12, but they let me slide because I was going to be 13 in like a week or whatever. So it was even before I turned 13. He enrolled me into a scuba
I
diving
can't wait.
class. And he couldn't wait to make me do this. So I did my lessons for like, 3 months or whatever it was in this pool here in Indiana, and took all of my certification courses. And every Saturday, and I think it was Sunday or whatever, we had to go for like 4 hours, for like a month or something like that, to this dive like school basically. And me and one of my best friends did this class together, and then we did our open water dive here in Indiana, all to lead up to the next spring, where my dad took us on our first like real open water dive to Key West, or to the Keys in Florida. The reason why how this all fits into the Mardi Gras beads. So when my best friend and I was 14 and he was 15. So we actually had the exact same birthday. He's a year older than me. So I was 14 and he was 15. So we're like a year later now, we're officially got all of our dive stuff and whatever. And we're excited to go on our first like out, like actually out in the ocean kind of dive. And, we're with my dad and one of his buddies, and we're going down there, and my dad goes, we're in Key Largo, and we dove Key Largo, and my dad was like, hey, I'd like to go down to Key West. I heard there was some big party going on down there right now. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And I was like, what's it called? He's like, I don't know, something called like Fantasy Fest or something like that. And I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. Whatever, fine. Sounds fun, Dad. Let's go. So we go down to Key West for a couple of days, and Fantasy Fest is like Mardi Gras, basically. It is Mardi Gras in Key West. And it
Mm-hmm.
is not like a normal Mardi Gras either. It is like, Key West is a weird place, right? Have you ever been to Key West before?
I think one time.
So if you've been there, then it's like, the LGBTQ community is like huge down there, and Fantasy Fest is like this big festival where basically everybody like paints their naked bodies, and they run around in like weird fairy costumes and shit like that. And it's a very open environment basically. So I'm like a 14-year-old kid from Indiana with my best buddy, and we're two high school kids, and we're getting these. So we get down there and we're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, there's naked women running around everywhere. We're like, there's people going crazy. We're like, what is happening? So my friend and I, we got like this great idea to paint our chests, because we're like really smart, suave, stupid, idiot teenagers. Show me your tits on our chests, and then on our back we wrote please, right? So that's where most of those beads came from. They thought it was adorable because we were like 14 and 15 years old with that written on it, so they're throwing beads at us the whole entire time. And my dad's just with me the whole time, encouraging us. And this one actually is. So my dad, this is back in the day when you saw like those JVC like handheld camcorders.
Yes, yes.
So my dad has his JVC handheld camcorder. We're walking up and down the streets of like Duval Street or whatever, and craziness ensues all around us. And my dad's like recording all this, like, and capturing it for his own memories or whatever. And as we got back home, he was showing my mom some of the videos from the trip that he took, the scuba diving trip and whatever. And then the Key West trip comes up, and some of the scenes of it is what's going on with Fantasy Fest. I will never forget this. So we're sitting there watching this, and my dad's holding his camera, and as he's walking down the street, people are passing, and this woman with completely naked breasts walked by, and the camera just hits her right in the boob. And my mom like looks at him, and she's like, what the fuck did you just take my son to? And I'm like cracking up and like looking up, and my dad's like, so I say all this to say, like, Brian is a whole nother story. So I got the beads from like Mardi Gras, and then also it's from like I went to actually like a New Orleans Mardi Gras one time too. So
Right.
those were also on there. But Brian actually was because I worked as a games management intern at Six Flags Great America up in Chicago when I was in college, and I learned all the tricks because I had to manage like a whole section of the park of the games program. I learned all the tricks of all the games. So when Felicia and we started dating, my wife, I started dating her my last semester of college. That was the semester that I came back after the summer spending at Six Flags as like an intern, games management intern there, living there all summer. I was trying to impress her. I took her back there and I was like, yeah, I'll win a stuffed animal for you. I'll win one of the big ones for you real fast. So I went to go play one of the games, and that's how Brian ended up in my life. And you're right. Like these things are all like, they're not just like random weird little things. Like they do reflect who I am in a weird way. It is.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
Because the thing is, you just say, hey, it feels good, right? Because the thing is, you can go to your parents, right? I mean, he can have the best furniture, the best room, the best paint, the best carpet, whatever it is. It doesn't feel like you. So it's, hey, it feels not me. It feels weird. So that's what I'm saying is it's a total reflection. And I think, understand that human nature like construct, right? We can actually reprogram ourselves in a different way. You like, let's say that's why for me is like these things that you have in your house, or it's like for the book cover, right? The book cover you have on your the top of your interest, right? That's your trigger. This is your trigger. It reminds you of the things you had, right? To me, you can actually, because this is what you did, right? And you can actually use it as a trigger. With knowing that fact, you can actually trigger yourself to become something that you want to be. Let's say you figured out, hey, I have trying to be a beaver all my life. Now I wasn't really a beaver. I was like, maybe I was a platypus, right? And so you can say, hey, if I'm a platypus, what is it platypus needs to be, and how can it? So you can actually.
Oh man, you're cracking me up because one of the last ones that I just wrote, the 362, we won't cover it too much, but it was about the lion and the raccoon and me realizing I'm not a lion. I've always told people I have two spirit animals. I even said it in this reflection. One of my spirit animals is a lion, and that's why the little lions are over there. I'm not a lion. I had this epiphany after I read this book because I was like, it was about Loki, like Loki, the Norse god Loki, like Thor and Loki. I'm not supposed to like Loki, but like I like Loki. Yeah, Loki's cool. Like, Loki's me. Like, I'm like Loki. I'm mischievous. I'm stupid. I am the raccoon. Like Amelia is the lion. That's her little lion. Fine. My kids can be lions. I'm captivated by lions. That doesn't mean that I'm not captivated by lions. That doesn't mean I don't want to have my book covers be about lions because it reflects.
I mean, you don't need to be captivated by the things you like. You just the thing is, you are who you are.
I am
who you are. You can like other things. It's not like you. But like I say, whatever who you are and the kind of thing you do, it's a reflection of your externals.
Right.
So for me, it's like, you're talking about being a beaver, right? To me, I don't think I'm a lion either, right? I'm not a lion. I probably, I don't know what a Mexican fisherman is, but that's who I am. I mean, like I say, I don't really care. Somebody comes to me and say, hey, True, I mean, people do this all the time. They come to me and they pitch me all this because I'm a software engineer, right? So people, with startups, whatever, they come to me and they pitch me all these ideas, and I say, well, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna make billions of dollars. I don't know.
I don't care.
I mean, most of the startup I joined was like, how they get me, and I keep doing this. Is how they get me is like, you don't have to do anything. You just have to be there and just work on your own pace. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I get real into these things. They walk out, do they go. But the thing is, the only reason why I joined was how they say the way that it's supposed to work is, yeah, you just put it in the hours you want. You just do the way you want.
You're free,
you're free. So it doesn't align with who I am. So that's the thing is. It's like, I don't think I'm a lion because, a lion has to be like the king of the jungle. I don't want to be a king or nothing. Like, so, and to me, it's like, for me, if you, in any kind of scenario, if you ask me whether I should fight or I should run, I'm probably just gonna run first. I don't sit there.
I wouldn't even run necessarily. I would probably make sure that I never enter into that environment without one of my really
any situation that say, hey, that looks precarious.
I bring protection with me. No, I invite the trouble. I just bring protection with me. Like I don't ever do something dumb when I'm
Because you're the
unprotected.
beaver.
No,
No,
right, the
you're the
raccoon. Yeah.
raccoon. You're
Right,
the
right,
raccoon.
yeah,
You're the troublemaker. But the thing is, you
exactly,
cause the trouble.
exactly.
But you're not gonna be put your hands down there and get yourself like
I'm not gonna get dirty
beat
from
up.
it.
But
I,
like I say, it
I've
reflects
never
who
been in a
you are.
fight in my life ever. I've definitely provoked many, many, many fights in my life. I mean,
Do you dance out of it?
it's I'm glad that I had this epiphany because I've always joked around. I've told you this many times. I have two spirit animals, like I'm a lion and a raccoon, and I'm like, but no, I literally realized I'm not a lion. I'm just a raccoon. Brian is a representation of me. You know what I mean? Like that is
Exactly.
who I am, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all. Actually, it was really this whole conversation. I've been wanting to share this with you. So it reminded me of Blink, the Malcolm Gladwell book.
Mhm.
There was a section in there where he talked about, what if you were going to hire somebody, what would be a better course of action in terms of deciding whether or not they were going to be a good hire or not? Spending an hour with them a week for 52 weeks a year and really getting to know them and taking the time to understand that, or walking into their home for 30 minutes and spending 30 minutes in their home, sight
The
unseen,
second one. The second
all
one.
day, every day. And he was like, it's pretty much the equivalent of if you walked into my house, you would see exactly who I am. Like you're like, well, why are those photos on the wall? Well, I really care about balance. And like, I've been to Mount Haleakala, multiple times. It was a spiritual moment, but at the same time,
It's
I wanted
basically it's a book.
right.
Your
Yeah,
home is a book about you.
exactly. And
Right?
what's that photo on the wall? Oh, that's the book that I wrote for my daughter. Oh, what's your daughter? Oh, she's over here. She's the most important thing in my life. If you ever want to know what's important to me, like,
Of course, because thing
talk,
is it's display on there, right? Thing is it's display in the most traffic path, right?
right.
It's the most important.
Right.
It,
So spend 30 minutes in your home and you'll know who the people are, right? He was like, instead of having interviews where you bring people to their office, you should go to them and say, hey, I'll come meet you at your house. It's fine.
thing is you think about like I can spend a week, like what's the first option?
It said a week
An,
for 52
an
years.
hour a week
Yeah,
in
yeah,
52, right? So that's 52 hours.
right.
That compared to let's say you're like 35. That's no comparison. Because in your home, it took you 35 years to get it to be that in that pattern and that way.
Right.
So that means the thing is an hour a week for 52 weeks. It's only 52 hours. This is
Right.
teeny tiny in terms of the what you can see. You can actually read the whole book of this person's story in the environment.
Yep.
Because then whatever, like for example, you're Brian, right? How many years would it take you to get Brian there?
Oh, geez. Well, we're talking about,
It took your whole life.
I've had,
And it stays there from when you were what, like, however long you
moved
dated
in.
Felicia, right?
Yeah, we got
The Brian comes from the carnival winning. You were dating your wife.
2006 or 2007 is when I got it.
Okay,
So
what?
yeah,
15 years.
yeah, and it's been here in this spot
And
for
that's just
since
one
the day that
element in your home.
right.
So
Well,
what's
the
important?
beads are from when I was 15 years old. So
Exactly, right? So that's what I'm saying is there's so much information in a person's environment. And I'm
right.
saying is that key. That's very important because, like I say, I've been on this quest for trying to figure out how to reprogram people's conscious. It's because you can actually use that to leverage and to train your elephant.
For sure.
Okay, so this is another, I guess, bonus chapter in how to train our elephant book.
Is your environment?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that one down. Oh, wait here. No, keep going. Yeah, no, I'm just taking a note of that one because that's a good point.
Right, because regardless of who you are, if you cannot stand a certain thing, you're gonna feel nauseated. That's how some people become anal in terms of, okay, it just bothers me so much, right? Naturally, it bothers you because it violates the core value you hold deep. So
Right.
that's the thing. You cannot be a good person and do bad things. And you cannot be a bad person and do good things. It just violates your core values.
You can't be a Loki and try to be a Thor. Thor
You
bores
cannot.
out of me. Like Thor is boring as fuck. Like, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, I mean, the whole reason why even the Norse gods, like, so that whole book, like, it was every basic story was like Loki did something stupid. Everybody gets all up in a kerfuffle, and everybody, while he's entered, the whole story is the only reason there's a story is because Loki did something to make something happen. Hey, let's see what happens. He fixes it, and it's fine. We're good. And everybody's like, oh, we're better. But yeah, sure. Thor did some shit along the way, like whatever. But
You don't remember what Thor did, though.
Thor did punch somebody with his
something
hammer,
about a hammer,
like,
something
yeah,
about
right,
hey, the hero wins in the end. But it's like you say, it's very predictable. And a lot of time, like some people like predictability, and some people don't, right?
They do.
And so,
very much so.
I mean, for me, is the best day is a day there's nothing happens to me.
Right.
Like I don't have any kind of issues. I don't have any kind of anxiety, right? It's like the best day is everything is the way I like it. I just like everything's there. I just have my freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want, without having to, oh, I gotta go do this, oh, I gotta do that. So to me, that's me. That's the kind of person I am, and my environment and the way I live my life reflects that. For me, it's like I told you, I like open concept stuff. My entire wall is all glass.
Right.
I think it's about 60 feet long. 60 feet long. It's a long house.
Right.
So on the east side of it, the whole entire wall, like all the walls, like it's glass from floor to ceiling.
That's pretty cool.
Completely up to the ceiling. It's all glass, right? And the other thing is my house, it's so hard to fix. It's because everything's custom. Everything's custom. I can't fix the house because there's no parts for it.
It sounds like a true like mid-century modern, like
not only is it mid-century modern, it's an experimental mid-century modern.
Oh, there you go. So it's even more, it was that whole
to me, essentially, it's probably no house like it on Earth.
I believe it. I mean,
because
it
the architect that built it, it's probably like he's kind of famous, but not like famous, but he's kind of famous. He has like 3 generations of architects. His grandson is an architect of some reputable firms, but in the 50s, he's trying to build this new experimental architecture. So he built this building. So this building is what they do is they pull 2 slabs, right, and then they jack up the second slab as a ceiling. And so the roof of my house is actually a slab of concrete.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
whole concrete. It's reinforced concrete.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's difficult to get insurance. It's difficult to get any part. It's difficult to fix the roof or whatever. And it's as old, it's very old. It's 70 years old. And
do you even need a roof? I mean, you just need like slats or something?
You do, because what happened is you need insulation because concrete will absorb any heat. Right. So what happened? You have a slab of concrete. And then what they do is they put some kind of particle board insulation on top, and then they put in this asphalt tar or whatever, and then they put the roll composite on it to kind of hold it. But because the sun is so hot that if you don't, let's say the sun is hot and you walk out barefoot on concrete, it's going to burn your feet, right? Because it absorbs the heat. So you still want to have some kind of roofing material on top of it.
Gotcha.
And so that's why we do have some roofing material. And then because it's a flat, right? It's a flat roof. So it's not, and how houses have like a high pitch house because, rain and the concrete is flat.
So how does water get off of it? Is it like channel into something?
So still very, very, very slightly.
Gotcha.
Very slightly. So that means that the glass window that we have here is not level.
Interesting.
Because the thing is, the house is like, even though it's flat, but there's a very, very slight tilt. So that makes the rain go down the thing.
On the side where the rain comes down, or on the other side? Both sides.
No, I have a neighbor on the other side. Right?
No. I'm saying the slant of the roof is the glass on this side.
So my house is situated like this, right? Like this is north, this is south, and on the east side, this is where the glass is. So the roof tilts like this. From north to south.
The roof's going that way. Okay, all right, I see.
Right. So the front is a brick wall, the back a brick wall, in between it, they have a brick wall cut.
The glass isn't even the same size as it goes up.
Yeah.
I see. I was thinking that the glass would all be, if it was all tilted on this side, like, if it was this way and then the glass was on this side, but the roof was tilted this way versus that way.
Your glass has to be cut in a, I don't know. It's more of a slanted. And so it's difficult to do anything. And the plumbing, right? It's actually inside the concrete. So I have terrestrial tile. So they just pour the tile in there and buff it. So it's tile, but it's versatile, and it's like 33 feet wide.
Right.
It's 3 feet wide each. Right. 3 by 3. foot each, but the whole entire house has that, right? And so the plumbing is in that. It's in there, so it doesn't broke. I
That's
mean, it's hard. And
you
then
gotta carve up your whole floor.
electrical lines are in the roof itself because I have like recessed lighting. And then when we're trying to drill that thing, it's impossible. It is hard.
So
It is a nightmare. But that's the
yeah,
thing is it reflects who I am because for me is I have to find this house. And when I bid for this house, like this house, when I bid for it, and most houses, I don't know why, but most house I buy, it's always this competition.
right, yeah,
It's like I want this house, and we keep bidding it until we get it.
right,
And so like this house reflects who I am. I want to be like I told you, I'm always the black sheep of the family because
right,
I'm always like do my own shit, and so this is my own thing. It's like
right. Keeps
I
you busy,
mean,
keeps you entertained, you know.
it has all this. I feel at home with
Right.
this house, right? I cannot imagine myself being in a house that is normal, like has pitch roof and all that. I just can't do it. All the houses I've owned always have some unique character. That's why I like Frank Lloyd Wright so much, is because
Yeah,
his house is so unique. And most of the houses I'm looking at, it doesn't have that kind of uniqueness character to me. So
right.
it
I agree.
reflects who you are exactly.
I agree.
And so for me, it's like there's two ways you can do it. You can either condition for it, or it's how you are internally. So either you can manifest it from within, or it's going to embrace from without.
Yeah.
So that means if you want your kid to be a certain person, put them into the environment, it will reflect inside. Like let's say you want your kid to be in business or marketing or in technology, whatever. If you don't code and you don't know anything, you don't like math or whatever, put your kids in places where you have a lot of computers, a lot of math, a lot of whatever that you don't like. Even if you don't like it will reflect within, like I said, you want to put Lucas in that environment, it will reflect on him and he will embrace it because when he's smaller, he doesn't know.
Right.
He doesn't know internally what he wants, so he can embrace the outside, the
Mhm.
external. And so even for us as an older person, we can actually change the way that we become. Like you want to become like somebody who like whatever the kind of person you want,
Well,
and you want to change your
this
habits or
this
whatever.
room this room did not look like this before Amelia was born. This room used to be like our third kind of living room space. It was kind of just a blah space. We had some couches, like these couches up here, those two, that
Hmm.
one and that recliner on that side. We had a sofa, like a reclining leather chair sofa on this wall. And then on this wall, we had a big screen or whatever over here. And
Hmm.
that was all was up here. It was two chairs, a coffee table, and then Brian and the bookshelf back there. Like, everything else pretty much didn't exist in this room. Like, so
Right.
when Amelia was born, like I got kicked out of my office, which is now the nursery. And my wife was like, "You got to go somewhere." I mean, the story about the whole basement.
Right.
That's why we redid the basement. So like my entire home has almost changed night and day since Amelia was born, and it really reflects a lot about more, of her. Like at this point in time, like those photos I was just showing
Right.
you on the wall, like that was for me as I was writing the book, and I was like, learning who I was, and I was like, I went up here to feel more like me up here, and like I mean, all these things that I'm talking to you about, like a lot of these have happened, in the past few years alone, like it's not like my house didn't reflect me at all beforehand. It did.
It
But
will.
right,
The thing is, this is what I want to caution you and anyone who wants to listen is it's either you reflect it or it reflects you.
right.
Because let's say you leave your attic like the way it was before, and you come up here and you sit there, right?
I wouldn't be
Whatever
inspired
is
by
in
this
your
room.
environment, it will go internally, and you feel the same way,
I
right?
hated coming up here. I used to hate coming up here. I was like, this room sucks. Like I never came up here ever. I think I maybe spent like in the 10 years we've lived here, maybe like a total of 20 hours up here. I never came in this room. Just to be clear, I hated this room actually. I was like, this room sucks. It's boring. There's nothing going on up here. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
If you allow the misery, you will become miserable,
Yeah, I agree.
right? So it's either come from within, meaning like you decide, hey, I want to become this person, then you start slowly changing the environment. But if you go into an environment without having this wanting desire to change, to know who you are and be the kind of person you want to be, then your environment is going to change you and you become just that person. You can go to a turd sandwich factory. You're going to love turd sandwich.
I mean,
It's
I
just the
agree.
way it is. Unless you say, well, it's turd sandwich, I ain't going to eat, regardless of what it is, regardless of where you go, you're going to change it. Because the thing is, this is what I'm saying is you go to this turd sandwich factory, right? But then you have this club in your light, right? This company like people, you trying to influence your company core values onto these people that you work with, right? So
for sure.
you reflect that environment. That environment doesn't reflect you because you rejected it. You say
Right.
this QBR is the shittiest thing I ever had to sit
I told
through,
my
right?
team that, they know it. Like,
Thing is, when you know what you want to be, you reflect the external. That means that the people around you, it's gonna be more like you.
right.
Or you go
Or,
into the environment without having that thought, that desire, they absorb you. You become just like them.
right.
They become like you.
I totally agree. And like, we build to remember. This whole entire room is about remembering, like, and I feel
And
comfortable in
and
this room,
that's what I'm saying. It's automatic. So that's why it's dangerous if you allow it. Some people do. Some people allow the environment to dictate who they are. Like people live in a slum, right? They live in a slum.
Right.
They become the slum. Say, why can't you get out? I don't know. I can't get out. People in a bad relationship, right? They stay in a relationship. Why didn't you get out? I don't know. I don't know how to get out,
Right.
right? Because that's a danger. Because without having it, it will dictate what you have inside. It reflects inside. If you don't have anything inside to reflect out, that's why. If so, the difference, like I said before, you go into an environment, you reflect it, or it reflects you. But what's the key?
I mean, it's my key. Like, if you
The
know what
key
you
is
care about.
having a desire. It's homeostasis because whatever you have is the same. The moment you raise something internally, it's going to start to flow out,
Right.
right? But if you don't, you leave it, right? Eventually, you go and they're going to flow in. And so it's homeostasis. So that means that internally, if you have something that you want to do, you raise it. And if you have difficulty raising the internal goal, internal desire of who you are, then trick it by putting
Right.
place, like go pick the environment. Because like I say, the subconscious is a computer. It's a supercomputer, a supercomputer. Like anyone can tell you that, hey, computer is better than you. AI is going to take over the world. They have no clue. They're beyond dumb. Okay,
Right.
your human mind is like, I would say, you know how magnitudes work? Is it 100 times or 1,000 times? It's about, to me, it's probably like 1,000 times or 100,000 times more powerful than the fastest supercomputer we have today. And the supercomputer we have today is basically like housed in like 3 football fields. That's one supercomputer.
Right.
But if your mind is like 100 times faster than that, you know the magnitude. That's what I'm saying is, to me, because the thing is, in computer you have 0 and 1, right? In human we have DNA, which is 4. So in computer it's binary, it's 0 and 1.
Good point.
In human DNA is 4.
You know
So
how
the
much
magnitude of it is like 1,000 times more.
I've heard that if you tried to do like sequence a protein, like it's like way even more than DNA, which proteins are really the building blocks of everything anyway.
I'm saying the protein, you have 4 of them. You have 4 bases.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying each protein, if you try to sequence a protein, it's like, wow, I don't know how we can do that
The
ever.
thing is, I'm saying the basis is so much more. It's like
Right.
100 times, 1,000 times more.
Right.
So
Right.
your brain, your subconscious, there's 2 parts of your brain. System 1, which is the subconscious, and we established that. So
Mhm.
system 1 is the subconscious, which is also what we call the elephant, which also we call system 1.
Mhm.
Okay, so we were referring to system 1 in the thinking fast and slow from Daniel Kahneman. He refers to that as system 1. In the happiness hypothesis, system that subconscious is the elephant, right? So we have 2 brains. One is the subconscious. That is the supercomputer. I'm telling you, is really, really, really super fast, faster than anything you ever seen.
Mhm.
The second one is our conscious brain, which is the forebrain. This is system 2, which is on top of it, which is the writer. The writer is actually the programmer. The computer, all does is executes.
Right.
It does, it runs the program. The writer writes a program. The computer, the elephant, runs it. So that means that you can train your elephant regardless how you train it. If you give input from the external to your elephant's going to run it. Your subconscious will run the program. And your program, the way we program ourselves is based on repetitions. Right? And so that's what we do.
And emotions.
Yeah, but it's on this
the emotions are signals, in my opinion, for the writer to write a program that aligns to those emotions.
I think the emotions are the emotions are what I call
they're signals.
Yeah, the signals.
Yeah, I mean, there's a signal to the writer of like, oh, okay, write a...
Emotions are what I call I don't know if you, maybe I'm confusing you, but the emotion is like the data. It flows through the methods, right? Maybe that's confusing. That's probably too nerdy, but regardless, we're on the same page. Yeah. The emotion is actually, thing that goes through the system, right? And that will actually produces results. And so the programming of your conscious is possible by multiple ways. You either program it from within, meaning consciously you program the subconscious by repeating it and by enhancing a certain emotion or by focusing on those emotions. And the other one is let the elephant do it by external stimuli.
And you'll end up on Facebook every night drinking a Diet Coke while you're eating your Big Mac, while you're watching 24-hour cable news, while you're
you think about it,
playing video games and not
exactly. So to kind of prove point, how the inputs to the computer are your senses, your touch, your sight, and other. So for example, when you listen to upbeat music, you feel upbeat, right?
Right.
Or let's say when you watch some show that have food in it and the people eating, and you feel like you want to eat too, right? Everything. Also, when you see people exercise, you want to exercise too, right? Because that's the input. Your subconscious is going to run the program. So that means that anything external, like let's say you want to say, well, I want to be fit. Just subconsciously program yourself to say, I'm going to watch a 1 minute video. I'm asking for like 30 seconds to 1 minute. 1 minute video every day. Just schedule it on day and just
that's
put
easy.
random thing on there. Somebody exercise, right?
That's just get on TikTok and it'll find the algorithm for you and it'll show you
to the other pages.
No, it'll if you just keep stopping on exercise and you keep.
But the thing is, I'm saying is, let's say you schedule it to be. That's what I'm saying is these triggers are important. Like when you put the cover of your book at the entrance, you can always remember to live for two.
Well, every morning
it doesn't even need a video. It probably just need a picture of somebody who's athletic and fit, and you want to become fit, and you can actually program your conscious that way as well.
Well, it's a vision board. I mean, that's the whole point of a vision board, right? Is to.
I think vision board is too complicated.
I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, but it's the same kind of idea of
as a programmer, you gotta go take it something simple first before you go to the vision board. People jump to the vision board. I'm the fucking architect. Like, no, be a junior programmer first.
Right.
I want to be the architect of the system over your head. Right. Go slowly. Eventually, you get there. Everybody has to start from somewhere. You can't just go, I'm going to one step jump to the cloud. You can't do that. But to me, this makes a lot of sense. Architecture is important. Pick the house you like. Pick a job you like. Pick a friends you like. Do not let people pick for you. To me, that's the message for today.
I totally agree. I mean, design the space to reflect who you want to be. It all goes back to knowing who you are and what you want to do in life. And the more that you know that, the more that you can reflect that into the world, like you said.
Know thyself.
Right. That's really what this whole journey, one simple, profound lesson. Focus on your values and bring them to life, right? That's it. Like, that's basically, that's clubbing in a nutshell. So bring them to life. You can bring them through the environment you work in, through their actions, through the people you surround yourself with, through all the things you just said. Like, you can bring them to life in a lot of different ways. I mean, that's what this reflection was about. I spent the first 2+ years before this book. I didn't mean to do what I did. It just happened. But now that I know that I do this stuff, I strategically did it. And I was like, oh, I want to make sure that I...
Exactly. In the beginning, you're not an architect. You cannot program anything. You have to program. You have to learn how to program it. So now that you have been trained enough that you can start to strategically using your conscious to place things strategically for your subconscious to consume.
Exactly. And enjoy your environment. You only got one life, and be in the places you want to be and do the stuff you want to do.
You can either spend your life or you can waste your life.
That's true. Yeah. I saw the other day, time billionaire. Have you ever heard of that term before? Like when you're really young, you have I think there's like 1 billion seconds in like 30 years or something like that. So, when you're like a baby, you're like a time billionaire,
right.
Yeah. Anyway, and as you get older, obviously You lose your billions.
The thing is, that's the thing.
Right. I mean,
What's the
but
difference?
it's going nothing. They're both gone. I mean,
No, but there's a big difference.
hopefully one of them you consumed it, and the other one is you just
You will lose your time. That is given, right? You will lose your time, but one is you spent, and one is you waste. What you spent is you trade your time for something of value to you. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is whatever.
Right.
So that means that if you don't understand what you value, how can you spend it?
You can't.
You spend or you waste, right?
Yeah.
Without knowing, say, hey, oh, I value this cup, right? Then you're gonna buy it, right? You're gonna trade your time to get that cup. Oh, this cup is important, or that Brian is important, right? Or whatever that you trade your time for, it's important. You're gonna trade your time for something. You cannot keep it because it's going, right? Regardless, you're born, you have a billion of seconds or whatever. When you die, you have none, right? So you will have to spend it on something, and you're gonna spend it on something that you don't care about. And that to me is the difference. You either spend it or you waste it.
I couldn't agree more. All right, I feel like that's a good place to pause for the night. I am officially ready to go to bed. So thanks for joining as always. That was always a fun discussion. And the question we can leave for everybody is, how does your environment help you to remember what matters most in your life or in your world? So something to think about. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.